Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to yet another Neverness to Everness video. Today we're going to look at Hotori, the latest character that just launched on CN. This video we're going to look at her kit, her build, and overall CN impression on her. And hopefully it will help you decide whether you want to pull Hotori or whether you want to skip her. Okay, now let's get into the video. Alright, Hotori's whole concept revolves around her being the Witch of Time. So she doesn't really have cooldown on her skill and ultimate. Instead, they use another resource. I'm going to call it as time energy to make it easier for everyone. So her E and her Q, her out and her skill, share the same resource. And you can see how much of the time energy you have left based on the bar on the left of your HP. So the thing that kind of look like a clock. So that the resources, the time energy, there's a maximum of 120 points and you recover 6 points per second. So her ultimate CD is fixed at 1 ultimate per 20 seconds. Her ultimate is not affected by your charge efficiency and all those thingy because it's a separate energy bar. So if I use my out now, you'll see that the energy bar will go directly down to 0. As you can see. Alright, since we are talking about her out, let's just continue with what her out does. Her out has two functions. The first one is the very typical like damage dealing function. So when you use her out, that is the first damage instance, and then she's going to use her katana 10 times. And then it's going to end with a new explosion. That's basically the first function of her out, which is to deal damage. The second function of her out is actually tied to her E, which we are going to talk about in details because the mechanics of that is a bit more complicated. So for Hotori's E, after she uses her E, in the next 5 seconds, she's going to record all the redirect skill and the support skill of all her teammates. So, but she can only record 3 of them, as you can see down in the icons above her HP bar. So currently it's empty because I haven't recorded anything. After I recorded one, it will light up in white. You can only record either the support skill or the redirect skill just from one character. So let's say I have Min here and then I have her support skill and then I use her E. You will only record the first one that comes first, which is her support skill. You won't record her E. So I'll show you directly here in game. So if I press Hotori's E and I use Min and then I use her E and then I use MC and use his E, as you can see, they left behind illusion. Those are the recorded skills of those characters. So if I use my Q now, it will unleash those recorded skills. So I'll use my Q now. You can see MC and then Min. That is basically the second function of Hotori's ultimate, which is to release the recorded skill by Hotori's E. So that's basically the simplest way of explaining Hotori's E, but her E has a lot more complicated mechanics than that. Alright, Hotori's E only copies the base stats of the skill, so the damage is not that high. It doesn't like copies the buffs and things and so on. So some people might question, is it really worth it to spend half of your time energy on a skill that doesn't really does anything when your ultimate does more damage? Alright, here's the tricky thing about Hotori. Because her E not only copies damage, but also copies the special effect of the skill and your support skill. So I'll give you an example. Like Hator's E will give you 2 feather. So if Hotori's copies Hator's E and then uses her out, it means that Hator will gain that additional 2 feather just from Hotori copying her skill. So that is just like one of the example. Currently in game we don't have that many like powerful E yet, but that is like one of the example where you can use Hotori. And then the another example is she not only copies, like I mentioned earlier, she not only copies redirect skill, she also copies your support skill. So what support skill does is it will trigger Esper reaction, which is the interaction between the different elements of the character. So this means that she will copy like Blossom, she will copy Charge, which is like the reaction that increases your ultimate charges. She can also copy Discord, which will break enemy defenses quicker. So this where Hotori's kind of like branches into two different playstyle. You can play her as sub DPS who only like outs and doesn't use E and to dish out damages, or you can play her as a very technical support that relies on copying like effects of your teammates' skills and as per reaction. Alright, now we're going to talk about Hotori's Awakening. Hotori's Awakening number 3 is a core skill if you are playing her as a technical support, because the effect is after you have finished all 3 recording, her time energy recharge rate is going to increase. So that is very good for her. And then 1, 2, 6 is basically to increase her damage output during her out. Number 1 is to with each of the recorded skill, it will increase her damage by 12%. So since there's 3, so increase by 36%. But if you only play as a sub DPS that only uses the out, just skip number 1 and then just focus on 2 and 6, which will increase your damage output during your ultimate. And then if you play as a technical support, you can just pick 3. The rest are like for damage and like very situational situation, so it's not that important. So if you are playing her as a sub DPS that only outs 2, 6, if you are playing her as a technical support, copying your teammate's skill, number 3. That's basically her awakening. Alright, now we are going to talk about Hotori's arc. This is her signature arc. Thing is walking outside the realm of time. The main stat is attack, flat attack, and then crit rate 9.60% at level 1. The stats are all the description here are basically whenever the wearer uses E after her, and then their teammate uses their support skill and their redirect skill, you will gain stack, and after the wearer uses their out, you will gain different shred and crit damage. So this is like perfectly designed for Hotori, because her whole thing revolves around her using E to copy her teammates like skill and support skill. But this is a bit awkward for her if you are playing her as a sub DPS, because as a sub DPS you only want to like uses your alt, because since your E and Q shares the same time energy, you don't want to like waste it. So this weapon is like not that crucial for her. So like some content creators says that you can skip this because they are like other alternative that like just work just as well. But if you want to like main her and play her as both role as like main DPS as well as a technical support, of course this is like the best option for her. So beyond this, we're going to look at like some other options that she could use. So for Hotori's other alternative, other than her signature arc, you can use this one, the one that you can purchase from the store. The one for MC, the rain that shook the world, is to increase the damage output. The other one is from the Battle Pass. The Fluff of Fearlessness, again, is similar, function almost similarly as the rain that shook the world. So those are her 2 alternatives. And if you want an F2P option, there is one which is blow up the crowd. You get it by defeating Beat King. It's good because it has like flat attack, and then this one, although you have to play her as a more of a support role though, increases like the team damage. You won't be getting the psyche damage like buff, but that's fine. That is like the alternative, the best alternative we have so far, at least from what I've read on CN. Alright, for Hotori's console, basically you want to go for Lost Radiance, no matter which role you play. Even if you play as a technical support, you want to go for Lost Radiance, because normally support will go for Speedy Hedgehog, but it doesn't really affect Hotori because like again she has her own like resource bar, which is time energy, so the charge efficiency really doesn't affect her. So you want to go for Lost Radiance for Hotori's console. Alright, for Hotori's team composition, the most popular team composition at CN at the moment is Eternal Blossom, which is like playing around copying the Blossom reaction. So you have the main character, which is Cosmos, and then you have Min or Nanali as the main DPS character, who is Anima, and then Hotori, which is Cosmos, and then the last character is Julian, who is Anima. I don't have Julian, so let's imagine Julian is there. So basically they react with each other. The 3 they react with each other to form like Blossom, and then whenever that reaction happens, you want to copy all of their support skill. So since there are 4 characters, you have 4 Blossom. And then during Hotori's ultimate, she's going to like copies again the 4 support skills. So you have 8 blossom happening at the same time. That is basically like the famous team comp that is like happening at doing CN at the moment. Right, these are the unique ways to like use Hotori in the open world and other location other than combat. First, you can stop time in the bank heist, ping pong gang heist, and the end game content whenever she uses the ultimate. And when she's in the open world, when she has time energy, she can hold attack and just pause Jawarudo, pause time. And when you want to stop, just hold A again and she will resume time. So that's basically the whole preview for Hotori, who is coming soon to global like in another week. Are you going to pull for her? Or are you going to skip her? Based on what I've read on like CN so far, people's impression of her is like she's not like the most important character so far, at least currently in the game, because the currently powerful like meta team, Nanali team doesn't really need her to like push beyond that boundary. But she's a very future-proof character because her skill means that she's whatever characters that come out in the future, she's going to have a part because she's going to copy their skill either way. And if there's a new character reaction, she's still going to be useful. So she's future-proof in that way. But in the current meta, because our ceiling is already, like we have already reached the ceiling, we doesn't really need her to provide the support. So, but what do you think after like watching through the whole thing? What is your impression of Hotori? Are you going to pull for her? And if you like this kind of content, please remember to drop a like and follow. And if you have any questions, drop it in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer. Have a nice day. Good luck with pulling if you are.